Okay, so let's build something. All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Dylan, if you've not been here before. Today we're going to be using foam clay. First time kind of teaching you guys how to use something like foam clay, and we're going to use it in a way that's more of a decorative piece on a prop that I'm already going to make. So this is going to be kind of like a foam clay 101 tutorial, but it's going to be specific to this prop. Take these ideas and use it for whatever you want on your costumes and props. Be creative with it. This stuff is super versatile, and it's gonna go a long way learning how to use it so you can put it on your own costume. I'm starting my prop today with some fiberboard. If you've never used this, it's like compressed sawdust and glue, so it works like wood, but it's not exactly like wood. You guys will kind of see what I mean a little bit later by that. But this is the king of the show today. This is foam clay, specifically SKS Props foam clay. My buddy Steve owns this company and he makes some awesome foam products. This is not a sponsored video, but he is a friend, so I'm shouting out his products because this stuff is fantastic. Anything foam related, just regular foam, foam clay, dowels, rods, whatever, you guys can get it at his shop. So we're gonna be using this today, and I'm gonna show you what prop we're going to be using this to make. Let me put you guys on to something. If you've not already, you should go check out Gokurakugai. This is a new manga. It is only like 14 chapters in, but it's an awesome story. The characters are super cool. The main character, Alma, has a spike that he pulls out of his chest, or a stake that he pulls out of his chest, and it turns into this awesome bone axe, and that bone axe is what we're gonna be making today. That axe is freaking awesome. I would love to own it, so I'm just gonna make it. That's kind of how this works. And we're gonna make two, and I'm making two because I'm gonna give one to a friend who does a cosplay of Alma, the main character in this story. So follow along if you want. Otherwise, take the concepts of this video and apply it to your own cosplay. The foam clay is what we're focusing on, but you should be able to get a lot out of not only the foam clay, but also the fiberboard as well. So let's get going. First step in this process, we're gonna draw and cut out our base of our sword. Axe. Axe? It's kind of an axe. We'll go with axe. I've gone ahead and drawn the axe onto our fiberboard using the best references that I could find on the internet. Since this manga is super fresh, there's not a ton, but basically we have, I said I'm making two. We have one here, the other one's over here, and then I have two extra handle pieces for each one because this is 1/2 inch MDF, medium density fiberboard, which means that if I cut the handle out, it's only going to be 1/2 inch thick, which is too thin for my hands. I want it to be a bit more robust, and we're going to round it off later with some sanding. Take a jigsaw or a bandsaw and cut this out. Our sword is all glued together. I've gone ahead and taken the liberty of rounding off the handle. So this would be the next step for you guys if you're following along, is just take a sander, round this thing off the best you can, and then I added an end cap here of a little 2-inch disc that I got from Michael's. So you can add this as like a little decorative piece. But now we get to focus on the meat and potatoes of this build, adding some foam clay to this design. All right, this is foam clay. So this is what we're gonna be using to add the designs to our sword or our prop here. It's basically exactly what it sounds. It comes in this container. This is SKS Props foam clay, the one you definitely should be using. When you open this container, it's nice and gooey, it's nice and easy, kind of like clay, exactly the point. Then as it air dries, it solidifies into foam. We're gonna be making a bone design on our sword with this stuff here. I'm gonna open this up, show you what it looks like, show you how to use it, and some different applications that you can use with foam clay. But for this example specifically, we're gonna be working on this sword. You can take this and use it however your imagination allows you, because it's very versatile. You guys will see exactly what we're talking about. When you pop the top off here, your foam clay is going to come in this bag. This is going to keep it airtight so it doesn't dry out while you're not using it. But if we open this up, you'll see exactly the type of gooey, nice clay texture that we're going to be working with and molding out of. Check that out. Literally, you can mold it into anything you want. It's kind of like a kneaded eraser. If you guys have ever been to art school and used one of these, this stuff is super cool. You can mold it, you can twist it, you can stretch it really long. It does not stick to you, which is also really nice. Make sure your hands are clean so you don't get anything inside the foam clay. But literally just shape it into whatever you want, right? And you can let this harden. So if you are making spikes or teeth or scales or anything like that for armor, you can literally make it whatever shape you want and let it harden by just air drying. All right, so as I get started here, one of the nice qualities of this foam clay is it sticks to itself, and it's pretty sticky regarding what you're putting it on. I'm gonna put it directly on my piece here. And I'm gonna start with like a little base. I'm gonna build this up here. So I'm gonna fill in this gap on both sides. I'll probably let this dry, come back to it, and then add more later on, just so I can build up the base of what I want this piece to look like here. Like I said, just push it on, fill in those spaces that you want. You can knead it, push it down, move it all around until you're happy with how it looks. If you guys are making something specific, make sure that you have your reference in front of you so you can look at what you're trying to make as you are working on it. So for me, got my reference off screen here. Move this over just slightly. Got my reference off screen so I can see what I'm trying to make this look like as I go about it. But it always helps to have that on hand so you guys know exactly what you're trying to make as you're working on it. I always find foam clay is a really good material for things like bone, which is what this is supposed to be because bone's so organic and there's no real rhyme or reason. So if you have fingerprints or little divots, such as all of this stuff that you see in here, that actually makes it look pretty natural as opposed to being completely smooth. And if you have the means and you're one of the tech savvy people who likes using them, you could totally make this out of a 3D printer as well, like resin or filament printer or whatever. But I like making stuff by hand. I prefer this method. It's just more fun to me. So this is what I'm going to do to get this prop made fully. Something else you guys can do is you can actually take some water and wet your fingers down and rub the seams together. So if you got some nasty seams that you're not able to get rid of by smoothing it out here, a little bit of water will help clean those seams up pretty smooth for you. Just don't overdo it, but you should be fine if you're using a little bit to get this nice and smooth. All right, so we've got a pretty good base. I'm happy with this so far. I went ahead and built out this part. This is actually part of the reference down here. Just a little spine, I guess it's not a spine, but a little growth part that goes down the blade. And then I built up some mass so we can connect these two while still keeping the same form. But we're gonna let this dry for 30 minutes to an hour. We'll come back, make sure it's good to go and not gooey anymore, and then we can move on to the next step. Now that this is dry, we can go ahead and add a little bit of detail and texturing to this piece. So I kind of got my base going. What I'm going to do now is take some extra foam clay, some small bits, maybe roll it out, and you'll see where this goes. We're gonna make some ridge lines right here. And then you can take a tool. There's sculpting tools, but I'm just using the end of a paintbrush to poke and mold this clay to be the exact shape that you want it. So just roll that out, whatever shape that you're needing. And then we're gonna place it in that spot. And if you don't need any, you can always just rip it off. So I'm going to blend this right in. So kind of like a ridge here. Blend this in, blend it out with your fingers. So you can really press and mold this however you want, which is super cool. Whatever design that you guys are making. And then you just fade it into the clay that you already have existing. And you should be good to go. That's about what I wanted that to look like. Like I said, you can take this tool and even like press this down more. I say tool lightly, obviously it's a paintbrush, but you know, whatever works. Just like this. Now we're gonna do that same exact technique. Now I'm gonna have to use this because it's getting a little bit too narrow for my fingers. That's all right, we'll be able to do this just fine. Just like that. Okay, we're gonna jump into a little bit of time lapse while I continue to work on this. I'm gonna do one side, let it dry, flip it over, do the other side, and then we can work on the spines in the middle, which I'll show you a little bit more of. It's not really teaching you how to do this project in particular, because it's kind of, we're running through it. It's more about the foam. So if you guys have any questions, make sure you leave it in the comments, but take this, use it as an idea of what you can create with this stuff. Sky's the limit, it's your imagination. So check this out, hang back, watch a little bit of time lapse, and we'll catch you once we're all ready to finish this up. Okay, so we are done with the handle bit. The part that goes up the handle, you can see all the curves and designs in this. We're going to work on the next part, which is kind of like some ribs. They will be going over the edge of the blade on both sides. We're gonna make a C shape, and we'll just place it on top here. You can see I put a strip of foam here, so it's got some more foam to grab onto. It should be pretty easy, but after that we'll work on the vertebrae, which is going to be a bunch of these like square shapes tacked together to make something that looks like a vertebrae. So we'll try to jump right in with this. Take your time with it. It takes a long time to do this correctly and to get the shapes the same throughout, but it looks really cool when you're done. So go slow, work on it the best you can, and eventually you'll get there. All right, so we got our rib things on, just a couple on each side, or not on each side, it's a big C shape on each side, but what we added on top were these essentially rectangles, flattened out in the middle and then pushed into a little bit of a V shape, we're going to do this one more time with a smaller set, and they're going to be a little bit higher up. They're going to point more upwards rather than out to the side. And then one final piece that's going to be straight down the middle, sort of like this big guy, on each one of these. And it's going to go in descending order. So the biggest one's going to be in the back, smallest one's in the front. Then we have a little bit on the front that we're going to add on. It's kind of like a V shape you will see at the end. And then this whole thing will be finished up, and I'll show you the final piece once we're done. All right, everybody, we finished our spine, our little spine and rib cage piece right here. Basically, the way that we did it is we had these pieces that go straight down the middle, and they go on top of two sets of these little wings, essentially. So you make a rectangle, and you flatten it out, and you kind of raise them up on the side. So you have a bigger and a smaller, and then the one in the middle. And you do that 5 times, add that little front little Y piece there, and you've got yourself the entire foam clay spine. It's nice and dry, you can set it down, you can move it, and I think it looks pretty cool. The next step here is we're going to take some Mod Podge and coat this thing. We're going to do about 3 coats-ish over the entire sword, and then we can paint. One other thing I wanted to mention is I added this little pommel on the end. Basically, it's a 1 1/4 inch dowel rod that I chopped up, put a hole through, and then glued onto the end here. The reason that we put a hole through it is because we're going to add this little like D-ring style thing on the end, and this is exactly the size that we need to fit on here. I think I just got this off of Etsy or something. If you look up like a D-ring buckle, you can find them, or if you want to make your own, feel free, but I like the metal one. That's going to go on at the end. But for now, Mod Podge next, and paint after that. Once you've finished one side, you can flip it over and Mod Podge the other side. Alright, that is the build, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, and I hope you get yourself some foam clay from SKS Props to mess around with. I really enjoyed this build. I really enjoyed this, this prop. And then for the first time, really using foam clay to its fullest. So I think it kind of represents how this stuff works pretty well. Check it out. Go get some for yourself. Go check out Gokurakugai, the manga. It's really good. There's only like 18 chapters out right now, so get in on it early, and we will see you guys in the next video.